Everyone, Michelle again, coming to you with another video, and I successfully have made 1 week. Wow. Every day a video, every single day of this past week. So hopefully I can keep it up. I just got back from watching, as you can see in the title, Back to the Future. And I consider this one to be a classic just because it's just really well known by a lot of people. A lot of people really identify with this movie. It's been critically praised. A lot of people put it in like top categories of maybe good sci-fi or good comedy. Or whatever category you want to put it in, but it's just sort of a mix of different genres together. But overall, it's very enjoyable, very energetic, and I think it's really why a lot of people like this movie, because it's just very positive and it's a lot of fun. And basically what the plot follows is the main character, Marty McFly, who ends up going back in time to the 1950s. He was born and raised in the 1980s, so again, this is a 1980s movie. And when he goes back into the 1950s, he goes back to the same exact town that he grew up in, but only in the 1950s, and when his parents were there when they were in their teens. So Marty McFly is just a regular average teenage boy. He's very identifiable, you know, he's kind of just the character that we kind of all see ourselves as in a way, or at least I think a lot of guys see themselves as. He's just he's a decent character who I think learns a lot throughout this whole process. The doctor who he works with, who ends up in a sort of kind of funny and amusing way, shows Marty this time-traveling device made out of a car, and how that device can take you to the past. And so he basically is the one who sends Marty into the past. So there's his character that that really comes into play in the story as you will see the plot unfold. But this plot never stops. There's always something going on. You never feel like that there's a dull moment or a place where you kind of just tune out. It's very just entertaining. It's just a lot of fun. It's kind of like what I would call the Avengers movie of the 80s, because it's just so like constantly things happening, like just no break. So the important thing is that you have to kind of pay attention to what's going on, and I think the way how the plot encompasses everything, that the people, the writers and the involved in making the story did a really brilliant job of like encompassing it all together and having it make sense, because time travel is not really the easiest thing to explain, and it's not the easiest thing to carry out. So I think they did it in a very simplistic but in a very profound and brilliant way. So I would definitely recommend this movie. What I liked a lot about the Doctor was how energetic he was, how very just very passionate he was about his work, and you really see the two characters, Marty and the Doctor, kind of come together and sort of how they interact throughout this entire plot and how it unfolds, and how Marty tries to get back into the future. And it's really a lot of fun. I really don't want to give a lot of the plot away, but this is what I can really give pretty much away to you without really spoiling anything. So the important thing I could say is, if you want to see this movie, is just to pay attention. And just because it's from the 80s does not mean that you cannot like identify with these people. These people are very humanistic. A lot of the characters are. I think that Marty sort of represents maybe a little bit of that era, because again he likes those, you know, really big 80s artists like rock artists like Van Halen and things like that. There's actually a Van Halen like sort of reference in there. So if you catch it, then you'll understand what I mean. But it's, even though he's sort of a representation of the era of the 80s, he still encompasses a lot of characteristics that are identifiable, I think, to teenage boys and identifiable to teenagers in general. So I would definitely recommend this to anybody. I think even kids can watch this. I think this is a very kid-friendly movie. There's maybe a few cuss words here and there, but it's really nothing. I mean, it can kind of just fly over your head pretty much, for the most part. And a lot of the funny bits have to do with the fact that this is going back in time. It is a movie that's trying to address time travel and how a lot of the humor comes from that. And the important thing is to just pay attention. And if you pay attention and just take everything in, you can really enjoy this movie. This movie's a lot of fun. But again, I think it just depends on people. There are some people who may not care for time travel. There may be some people who don't like the whole concept of like going back from one place and then going to another. Or they may not identify, maybe they may find the Doctor maybe a little bit too eccentric at times. I mean, I think he can get that way, but I don't think it's done in a very forceful way. I think it's done I think he has still a lot of charm to him, but you kind of have to sort of accept that his character is a little bit more on like the edge, especially when it comes to science, because he's just so passionate about it and so driven to do what he wants to do with it and what he wants to do with time travel. So again, those are those little things just to keep in mind in case you may not, if this movie may not be appealing to you. As far as final thoughts, the director was actually Robert Zemeckis. Again, someone, if you remember in my Forrest Gump review last week, I talked about Robert Zemeckis and his film Forrest Gump, and now we're talking about this film. I don't know if Robert Zemeckis is becoming one of the many of the directors I admire, because I mean I did really like Forrest Gump, and I really did like Back to the Future. I remember watching it the first time in my high school English class, and it was just a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. It was great. I don't think I could have said anything more of a fun experience, because all the kids were just laughing. Everyone was having a good time watching it. I think rarely movies can do that, and I think this one is just a really good time to watch. It's like the Avengers of the 80s. What can I say? It's very fun. It's very upbeat. It's very comedical, and it has its touching moments at times, which I found. And the touching moments don't feel forced or don't feel like weirdly placed. It feels like everything just sort of flows together, even though they're in this kind of ridiculous scenario of a boy going into the past and having to fix the things that he's done in the past in order to make sure that nothing gets altered in his future, which is his present. So it may be hard from as I explain it how the plot works, but once you start watching it, it's totally easy, and it's just funny. It's funny. It's fun. And it's definitely, I think, a really recommendable movie. But again, it's probably not for everybody. But overall, I really can't say anything that I don't really enjoy or don't like about it. I think it is an overall positive movie. Some people may have some critical stances on this film, but for me, it was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it, and the only way, I keep saying fun, but I can't help but say fun, because this is what this movie is. If you just turn on fun, that's what you're gonna get, because there is a lot of likable characters here and there that Marnie, comes across, and then how those relate to his future, or technically into the future, or to his present, and it's just great. I mean, it's fun. I don't think this movie is really. I think it's not really overrated, or I don't think it's really underrated. I think for what it is pretty well known, and I think it is allowed to have a name. Similar to Forrest Gump, where I think it's not so shoved in your face. But it's not completely, put under wraps either. So for a classic, I think it's very enjoyable. I would definitely recommend it to anybody. And it does kind of bring out your inner sense of child, your inner imagination, and it's great, and you'll have fun with it. So I think that's really all I can say about this particular movie. But if you have any comments, questions, or concerns, feel free to leave a comment or anything. Email's in the description, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye. And this is the first time I ever filmed this in my pajamas. Yeah, this is kind of random. I don't know if I should even have mentioned that, but either way, good night, everybody.